Councillors and visitors, please remember to switch your electronic devices to silent. Governance, can you please start the live stream now? Welcome everybody. I would also like to welcome our viewers at home who are watching the meeting via live stream. Good evening. Councillor Criado, can you please read the opening prayer?
Almighty God, we ask you to guide us in all our discussions to show goodness, honesty, understanding and wisdom in all that we undertake to do. May we respect each other's views at all times, and we ask all of this in your name.
Amen.
Councillor Giudice, could you please read the acknowledgement of country?
On behalf of councillors, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, on which this meeting is taking place, and show our respect for elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you, councillors. You may take your seats. Without prior approval, any recording of this meeting is prohibited. No action should be taken on any resolution of council prior to written advice from the city being received. Ladies and gentlemen, I now declare the council meeting of 18th of March 2025 open at 6:33. Apologies, I have received nil. Approved leave of absence, item 3. Mayor Mark Irwin is on a leave of absence for the period 5th of March 2025 to 18th of March 2025 inclusive. Councillor Kristicevic is on a leave of absence for today, 18th of March 2025. Item 4, disclosures of interest. There were 2 disclosures from the Planning and Development Committee meeting held 11th of March 2025, which are listed in tonight's agenda and displayed on the screen behind me. Councillor Giudice committee disclosure for item 12.1 CF1 has been amended to an impartial interest. Is that correct, Councillor Giudice?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Would you like me to read out that impartiality?
Yes, please.
Yes, the nature of interest is I reside adjacent a right-of-way and have over the time of living at the property made contributions directly and indirectly as per the right-of-way policy that render that I have no further contributions to make as per the policy. Further, I have no intent to construct a portion of the right-of-way, so all financial implications of the policy do not affect my consideration of this item. So hence it's an impartiality interest.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thanks for clarifying. Councillors, are there any other disclosures of interest for this evening? Yes, Councillor Reid.
Thank you. 12.1 CF3, the road naming, because I live within the City of Stirling structure plan.
Thank you. Please fill out the appropriate paperwork and ensure that it's received by governance. Councillor Dudek.
And just to clarify, I've given my conflict of interest last week and that was already taken as read.
Yes, that's correct, Councillor Dudek, and I didn't need to read it out because it wasn't amended. Item 5, petitions. Have we received any petitions? No. Councillors, are there any petitions you would like to submit? No. Can I please have a mover and a seconder No, actually, we haven't received any, have we? So no need. Okay. Responses to previous questions, item 6, from members of the public taken on notice, I have nil. And now we get to public question time. We have received some questions for tonight's meeting, and I will firstly like to call on Maria Rosic. Thank you, Maria. If you'd like to press the button, that's great. You have 3 questions. If you can just say your name and address, please.
Maria Rosic, Inglewood. Madam Mayor, I'd like to bring to your attention 2 incidents that took place last week at the 100% social housing complex at 157 9th Ave in Inglewood. Last Wednesday night at around midnight, a tenant at 157 9th Avenue attempted to bludgeon another person to death with a fire extinguisher, leaving the victim in a critical condition. There was also a second bashing within the complex preceding this event at 8:30. My children heard that, Other people's children heard that. These two events, although they are shocking, come as no surprise to those living and working within the vicinity of the complex, nor are they by any means the only events to have taken place at 157 9th Ave since the last council meeting. The local community has been contacting police and the council tirelessly, both of whom appear to be the only ones supporting the Inglewood community regarding this issue. We have also been contacting communities who appear to be choosing to ignore the data related to certain tenants at the 100% social housing complex collected during this time, as shown by their lack of definitive action in addressing these behaviours. Madam Mayor, before I ask my question, please let me be very clear. The antisocial criminal behaviour is every single day, without fail, sometimes for up to 12 hours at a time without a break. No human being should be expected to endure this sort of behaviour, not anyone from the existing community, not anyone from within the complex itself. It is inhumane, and for people with very obvious mental health concerns, like many of the tenants housed at 157 9th Ave, the Department of Community's failure to act on the reports and consequently continue to house problematic tenants in the 100% social housing complex is not only irresponsible, but it is also a recipe for disaster. The events of last Wednesday night are proof of that. At what point will communities take responsibility for choosing to place high-risk tenants in a community where the existing demographic is more than 80% families and the elderly, many of whom have lived in Inglewood for decades? When will communities take responsibility for placing high-risk tenants in a 100% social housing complex with other vulnerable tenants who are as terrified as the rest of the community, who are now desperate to get out of 157 9th Ave, but who are at the mercy of a flawed and outdated system that gives tenants only two choices: to continue to live with the very same people that are threatening and terrorising them, or become homeless? I only have one question today, Madam Mayor. Has the City of Stirling been notified of any impending action by communities to address the serious antisocial and criminal behaviours associated with 157 9th Ave Inglewood and actually remove the offending tenants that have been making that part of Inglewood a living hell for both tenants and locals alike for the past 6 months?
Thank you, Maria. Mr Quirk.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question. Yes, indeed, myself and the City's Manager of Community Safety, along with WA Police, met with executives from the Department of Communities earlier today. They are very much aware of the issues. They are very much aware of some of the problematic tenants. They did remind us of some of the constraints they need to work within, including their disruptive behaviours policy, including the Tenancies Act. So yes, they are aware, and they do seem to be taking action within their internal processes. Our view is that they need to move quicker. So we made that clear to them today. They are certainly receptive. They are very much aware of the issues. They are appreciative of the efforts of the City and WA Police to help address those issues. But we still don't have clarity on when they will deal with these most problematic tenants, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Melissa Molinari. Thanks, Melissa. If you can please just state your name and address.
Melissa Molinari, Inglewood. Good evening, everybody. I have two questions this evening. My first question is in regard to 157 9th Avenue, Inglewood. It's in relation to the increased antisocial behaviour in the community of Inglewood, specifically related to the safety of business owners in the area that are experiencing loss of business due to these issues. I refer to an incident that is both shocking and disgusting. This matter has been forwarded to the police. What I'm about to share in no way reflects my views or would I condone any such behaviour. I am sharing this with you as the business owners fear for their safety if they were to speak. 2 weeks ago, around lunchtime, a group of people entered a business on Beaufort Street, Inglewood. 4 females, 1 male. The male stood in the middle of the store, dropping his pants and exposing his genitalia to the business owner. Clearly affected by substances and carrying a bottle that smelled like petrol. The 4 females then intimidated the business owner to hand over items that they had no intent to pay for. When she refused, she was racially and verbally abused, called European scum, a white cunt, a effing Jew, and to F off back to where she came from, you white pig. The group then threatened to burn down her business. This type of threatening racial abuse is a daily occurrence for many business owners in our community. The business owner now closes the store when the 9:50 bus pulls up with said group of people on them in fear for her safety. The businesses are already doing it tough. Now they have to close their doors for their own safety and incredible stress and also loss of income. What is the council doing to ensure the safety of business owners in the Inglewood community? And would the council be prepared to call a community forum for concerned businesses to attend so that their voices can be heard?
Thank you, Melissa. Mr. Quirk.
Through you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question. We're very much aware of many of those antisocial and criminal behaviour issues that are occurring. Whilst this isn't going to be an easy situation to resolve, in the first instance, report is critical. Much of what you've spoken about there is criminal behaviour, and myself and the Manager of Community Safety are fully aware that the officer in charge of Bayswater Police wants those issues reported. They gave us some quite concerning stats today, which reaffirms the extent of the problem, but does reaffirm also the importance of reporting these issues to police. And also, if it's considered to be antisocial behaviour, through to the community safety hotline, which is 24 hours here at the city. In terms of a community meeting, we're very much aware of what the issues are, and we are very much aware of what needs to be done to resolve the issue, and it's the tenants at 9th Avenue. So we know what the problem is. We know who needs to fix that problem. With respect, I don't think there'd be that much value in a community forum. Of course, it'd be great for people to get stuff off their chest, but I don't think it's necessarily going to influence the decision-making by the department. That is a role that the city's trying to play on behalf of the residents to try and make the department put in place some mechanisms to manage these tenants.
If you were a business owner in this area and you were losing thousands of dollars every week and you were now struggling to feed your family, would you feel that that was acceptable? Because I wouldn't.
Thanks, Ms. Molinari.
Second question is in regards to traffic on 7th Avenue between Carrington Street and John Street. In the early hours of Monday morning, a car parked on 7th Avenue, parked half on the street and half on the verge, was the cause of a hit and run. The damage sustained to the vehicle was so significant, the car was a write-off. The truck that hit the car did not stop. The impact hitting the car was so great that the car was pushed 2 car lengths ahead of itself. Before this incident, the owner of the specific car had repaired a side mirror 3 times and had a motorbike ridden off that was hit by another car. With the closing of Caledonia Avenue, 7th Avenue traffic has increased tenfold, with speeding motorists, emergency services, large trucks and mopeds using it as a constant thoroughfare. The increase has led to an increase of speed and frustration for locals with small children. I am asking the council to consider similar speed humps to be installed on this section of the avenue, similar to the Bayswater end, to help reduce speed and potential incidents.
Thank you, Ms. Molinari. I will ask in this instance Mr. Guillemot for comment.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. I guess the short answer is we're happy to investigate those concerns. We undertake when we're investigating issues like this, we look at the traffic data, we look at the crash data. So we're happy to do that for that section of road, and that will dictate whether the priority of traffic management treatments, but we're certainly happy to progress that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa. Robin Murphy. Hi, Robin. If you could just say your name and address for the record, and you have 3 questions.
Robin Murphy from Karrinyup. I'm also the convener of the Friends of Trig Beach. My 3 questions relate to the proposed coastal boardwalk. My first question, Deputy Mayor, is recent severe storms resulting from Cyclone Alfred in Queensland and New South Wales demonstrate the need for the City of Stirling to take steps to protect the 7 kilometres of coastline that it manages on behalf of the people of WA. The preliminary environmental assessment by Katira on the proposed coastal boardwalk through the South Trig Beach Class A Reserve states in its conclusion that development should be designed not to occur on or adjacent to unstable or mobile dune landforms susceptible to erosion. In addition, the city's CharMap report states that avoidance of presently undeveloped land within the coastal foreshore reserve at Trig Beach is recommended. Why, given this recommendation adopted by the city in 2023 and the conclusions in the Katira report, does the city's webpage state that it is proposing to build a boardwalk to create a tourist attraction through this highly protected, erosion-prone coastal dune system between Scarborough and Trig Beach?
Thank you for your question, Robin. I will respond. I'll have this question responded to in writing, noting that we are currently doing the feasibility study. So there could certainly be some answers that will come about as a result of that study, though we will respond in writing. Next question.
Thank you. On the same website, there is an image gallery of boardwalks, none of which are a fair comparison with the topography, vegetation and sand dunes at South Trig Beach. 4 of the images are of rocky clifftop walks, 9 are of boardwalks through wooded forest locations, 1 is at West End at Rottnest Island, which is a rocky headland, and 1 is a stepped pathway leading away from the beach at Penguin Island. These images are misleading and should be removed as they give the impression that the Class A Reserve is a similar landscape. It is not. Dr. Judy Fisher reports that the area is topographically complex within a fragile biogeography region, and she recommends that disturbance within these dunes should be avoided. This mobile dune system located within a narrow coastal reserve is nothing like the landscapes in the image gallery. Will the city commit to immediately removing the misleading and deceptive boardwalk images from its website? If not, why not?
Ms Hawkins.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Ms Murphy, for the question. With regards to those artist impressions, they are there really to only, I suppose, provide a showcase for the future vision of the boardwalk. They are only for illustrative purposes, nothing other, and they're not indicative of a final design. So they are purely for illustrative purposes.
Thank you. It's obvious, though, that they're there for a reason, which is to promote a boardwalk that won't look anything like any of them. Thank you. My third question. In 2017, the Council adopted a recommendation that the city give due recognition, this is a quote, give due recognition of a threatened ecological community of Rottnest Island pine recently discovered in the South Trig Beach Reserve and afford it all required conservation measures to ensure its protection into the future. That was adopted by Council. The DCBA Interim Recovery Plan for Rottnest Island pine applies to all known occurrences of this threatened ecological community. It states that this community is a partially groundwater-dependent ecosystem. The city's Katira report states that the boardwalk design must ensure the design does not substantially alter existing natural drainage patterns. Can the city guarantee that the natural drainage patterns that support the threatened ecological community in the South Trigg Beach Reserve would not be adversely impacted by the construction of a boardwalk requiring excavation and concreting of multiple footings in the nearby sand dunes?
Thank you, Ms Murphy, and I will take that question on notice and respond to you in writing. I'd just like to rule, please, to extend question time for as long as it takes to answer remaining questions.
Thank you.
Kim Sewell. Hi, Kim. If you can please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 questions.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors as well. My name's Kim Sewell, S-E-W-E-L-L, and I'm from Inglewood. First up, I'd like to thank you guys for your consideration and, your care. It's quite a humbling experience, actually, because we know that, you're there. Instead of hearing the negatives, there's some positives coming your way for you guys. In particular, these 2 guys over here, David and Damien. Great stuff. We're so lucky to have you guys. Now, my questions have pretty well much been answered. I've heard what we need to know. So I wanted to get up here and have my two cents worth, and I've said it, and that's it. So
Feel
I'll
free,
let you
go
off
right
easy.
ahead, Kim. We're here.
Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Thank you for coming along tonight. Thank you, Kim. Mr. Roland Hadley.
Good evening, Roland Hadley, Woodlands. Question 1. Has Mayor Irwin contacted the state government to advise them of his intention to construct an expensive boardwalk through an A-class reserve? If yes, please provide a copy of the correspondence. If not, why not?
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. I'll take...
If I can just continue. And does this mayor believe he has the authority to construct anything in an A-class reserve which contravenes both the state and the council's own policies?
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Seeing as the Mayor is obviously not here this evening, I will take those questions on notice, present them to the Mayor, and we will respond to you in writing.
Thank you. Question 2. The Ewan Street Community Group query why the first question I asked at the last council meeting on the 4th of March was not fully recorded in the minutes. The group states that the 2 previous governance managers had a history of changing words, which altered context and meaning, or simply omitted sentences and words. They request that all questions are minuted correctly and in full. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morby.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Hadley, for the question. I can confirm that the city is authorised to summarise questions asked during public question time. There's no requirement to minute them verbatim. However, city officers certainly do their absolute best to capture the intent and the purpose of the question. But I understand the intent of your question and happy to take it on board.
Thank you. Question 3. Where is the community engagement on this major project, a boardwalk? Has the council contacted all the ratepayers to determine whether a multi-million-dollar boardwalk is warranted or wanted in the first place?
Ms. Hawkins.
Can I continue? Thank you.
That sounded like it was a question.
Well, it's part of a question, but I've got to get the information out, otherwise people will not understand it. Thank you. I'll just continue. Deputy Mayor and councillors, will you now contact all ratepayers for their input before any design consultant spends more money on this project? Finished, thank you.
Just making sure.
Thank you.
Ms. Hawkins.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Hadley. With regards to the community consultation, that will be done once the initial concept designs are completed. So there will be, sorry.
Thank you.
Speak louder and less Scottish.
That's better.
So
it's
we'll
your
certainly,
French accent that throws me.
We will certainly do extensive community consultation once those initial concept designs are completed. We expect that that will likely happen in May, June of this year at the moment. So that's our plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Harley Diamond.
Harley Diamond, Karrinyup. Just two questions. The Mayor announced the Council's intention to build a coastal boardwalk between Scarborough and Trigg Beach on Channel 9 in May of last year. And every public statement by him since then has been to promote this proposal. Does this support by the Mayor for a multi-million-dollar boardwalk through the protected and vulnerable Quindalup Dunes at South Trigg make the $150,000 budget for community consultation redundant? Or, at the very least, a huge waste of City of Stirling's ratepayers' money?
Thank you, Harley. Again, because of the Mayor's absence, I will take this question on notice and respond to you in writing.
My second question, when the Council held its workshops in early 2024, resulting in an allocation of $500,000 on a coastal boardwalk feasibility study, was consideration given to the common problems experienced with boardwalks in natural areas? For example, the substantial amount of public money on construction, conservatively estimated to be over $20 million, and the cost of ongoing maintenance. Boardwalks are often over-engineered. They are commonly destructive of the vegetation they are supposed to protect. They are often not well used, or alternatively attract too much use, requiring further access structures in a previously inaccessible area. Boardwalks often fall into disrepair because of the high maintenance costs and their location in areas inaccessible to vehicles. How is Council able to make a decision about the expenditure of rates on a coastal boardwalk feasibility study without taking the construction and ongoing maintenance costs into consideration?
Thank you for your question. Ms Hawkins.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you for the question. With regards to the budget, the $500,000 that was adopted through the budget process is to undertake, part of it is to undertake that feasibility study, and those are the types of things that will be looked at through that process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it, my last question.
Thank you very much, and thanks for coming along tonight. Brett Russell, please. Good evening, Brett. If you can just say your name and address, please.
Brett Russell, Trigg. The Friends of Trigg Beach and the Stop the Boardwalk Action Group have asked the City on numerous occasions since 2005 to upgrade the dual path that runs alongside West Coast Highway and the South Trigg Beach Class A Reserve. It has always been a mystery as to why the condition of this dual path has been ignored by the City over many years. I note a newspaper article recently announced the town of Cottesloe has secured funding of more than $4 million through the Australian Government's Active Transport Fund to widen and upgrade the Marine Parade share path along Cottesloe Beach. Would the City of Stirling consider getting this funding source to upgrade and improve the dual path along West Coast Highway and the South Trigg Beach Dune Conservation Reserve, and so avoid the claimed need for a costly boardwalk?
Thank you. Mr Guillemot.
Through the Chair, we certainly explore opportunities for funding. I guess that would come on, whether that is considered an option or not, that will come out of the discussions on the actual boardwalk, whether that's a viable option. But we're always looking at ways that we can explore funding opportunities for path upgrades such as that.
But what about upgrading the
Through
dual
the
path
Chair.
that's there at the moment?
The existing path is a relatively good standard. It's wide, it's separated from the road, so the actual path itself, we believe, is in reasonable condition.
I thought the issue with the path was that it was
Sorry,
dangerous.
Mr Russell, through the chair, please.
Say again?
Ask your question, that's fine.
Yes, I thought the issue with the pathway was that it was dangerous.
Mr Guillemot?
I guess that's it's an emotive argument. We believe the path in its current condition is satisfactory.
Okay. The city's Coastal Hazard Management Plan, adopted by Council in 2023, is a requirement under State Planning Policy 2.6 and provides the city with a strategic approach to managing and adapting to coastal hazards over the next 100 years. The city's Coastal Hazard Management Plan states that the cost of maintaining current features of the city's 7 kilometres coastal zone is likely to be prohibitively expensive in the future due to an increasing number of assets becoming vulnerable due to the predicted escalation of erosion and increased storm surges. Why is the council ignoring its own expert advice and proceeding plans for a multi-million-dollar kilometre-long, 4 to 5 metre wide coastal boardwalk through the narrow, highly protected remnant sand dunes between Scarborough and Trigg Beach, with the knowledge that this coastal reserve will be the subject of erosion up to West Coast Highway within 100 years?
Thank you, Mr Russell, and I will take that question on notice and have the city respond to you in writing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mike Masiello. Hi, Mike. If you could just
Good
state
evening.
your name and address for the record.
Mike Masiello from Trigg. Last meeting, I specifically asked about the recommendations for new construction or development, as in it wasn't there before, within the Trigg Beach South up to 100 or 21, 22. The written response provided being a boardwalk would be classified as minor infrastructure, with the respondent specifically liken it to a park bench or path, and the recommendations of protect or retreat were provided, which is the recommendation for existing structures, not new. Given the boardwalk is not an existing structure, the city's response conflicts the CHAR map. So I'm just not sure which one is right. And it also conflicts State Planning Policy 2.6, which states for new structures, avoidance is the recommended strategy for new developments within the 100 metre zone. Given the city is blatantly ignoring the CHAR map advice, what's the plan for obtaining insurance for the boardwalk to cover events like fire, public liability events, and for protecting this $20 million asset against erosion? And if it can't be insured, would the city cover the cost of the repair or retreat replacement, or would this be a state government cost?
Thank you, Mike. I will take that question on notice and have the city respond in writing.
I've lived in the city for over 20 years and I'm yet to come across a solid gold park bench. Perhaps the mayor has one with a plaque on his street. Can the city please rationalise how an elevated 1 kilometre by 3 metre, $20 million structure with hundreds of footings can be genuinely classified as a minor infrastructure versus major infrastructure? Or is that the coastal, or things assessed differently in the coastal ward versus the Balga ward?
Thank you for that question, Mike, and we'll have to wait until the mayor returns to ask him that one. And with that in mind, I will take the question on notice and respond to you in writing.
My last question. Is the Mayor, Mark Irwin, the only person qualified to answer questions on the boardwalk, or did he specifically instruct you to tell us that you'll respond to us all of our questions in writing?
Thank you for the question, Mike. And no, he absolutely did not. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to note that the City has received several submissions of questions to be included in public question time. Those questions have been answered in writing. Now we'll move on to item 8, applications for leave of absence. Councillors, are there any requests for a leave of absence? No, none. Item 9, confirmation of minutes. Councillors, show of hands, can I please have a mover and a seconder to accept the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held 4th of March 2025? Moved Councillor Hatton, seconded Councillor Giudici. Is that right? Giudici. Can you tell me, Councillor Giudici? Is it Giudici? Is that better?
Judici is my preferred, but yeah, Giudici can be also.
Giudici is what I know. So we'll go with that. Okay, councillors, can I get a show of hands, please? All those in favour, show of hands, and that's unanimous. Thanks, councillors. Okay, moving to item 10, announcements by the presiding member. And this evening I do have several announcements, the first of which is a very sad one on behalf of the city. It is with great sadness that we acknowledge this evening the passing of Barry Baker earlier this year. Myself and Neil Maul attended the funeral last week in Mount Lawley. What's that noise? Okay. Living in Mount Lawley, Barry was patron of the Mount Lawley Society from April 1990 until his death, and he made a significant contribution to preserving the history of the suburb and its unique heritage. Barry was recognised for his efforts in promoting and conserving local heritage by receiving the city's Gold Certificate Community Service Award in 1996. He was also proud to receive the 2011 WA Heritage Council Award for the individual making the greatest contribution to heritage in Western Australia. He was deeply honoured to be recognised by the City of Stirling when it introduced a heritage category, the Barry Baker Special Recognition Award, in 2014, which is still an award category today. Barry was the main leader and consultant for the design control draft, which led to the preparation of the city's character retention guidelines. Barry excelled in educating others about the suburb's history, authoring many articles about local families and houses. He also wrote books on how Mount Lawley came to be in 2005, and Hillview Road, the first 80 years, 1916 to 1996, a history of one of Mount Lawley's loveliest streets, was published in 2002. Barry's funeral took place at St Patrick's Anglican Church on the 10th of March 2025, and on behalf of council and residents of the city, we pass our condolences to the family on the passing of a much-loved family member and someone who has contributed so much to all the communities he was part of. Val Barry Baker. And my second announcement for this evening is a happy one. Hammersley Public Golf Course Redevelopment Project wins awards at the Institute of Public Works Engineering Australasia, in brackets IPWEA, WA Excellence Awards. I'm very pleased to announce that the City of Stirling won 3 awards at the Institute of Public Works Engineering Australasia, IPWEA WA Excellence Awards for the redevelopment of Stirling Leisure Hammersley Public Golf Course. The redevelopment was a finalist in 2 categories at the awards last Friday night, and it won both of them. Best Public Works Project, greater than $5 million in the metropolitan area, and the Excellence in Innovation Metropolitan Area Award. It then won the overall prize, the GK Waters Local Government Engineering Excellence Award for the state's best local government engineering project. This project was a Team Stirling triumph, with staff from all corners of the business involved, showing what cross-functional collaboration can achieve. I would like to thank all of the staff involved with this project, with very special mention of Sanjay Khosla, who is in our gallery this evening. Sanjay, please stand so we can give you a round of applause. Who was the project manager of the project. Thank you again, Sanjay, and it's our pleasure to recognise your great work. It was a real hole-in-one. I know. Wished I didn't, but I did. All right, moving on to item 11, unresolved business from previous meetings. I have nil. Item 12, reports and recommendations of committees. Councillors, we'll now deal with the items from the Planning and Development Committee meeting held on the 11th of March 2025. Councillor Ree has submitted an alt rec for item 12.1 CF3, so that item will be pulled out. Councillors, do you wish to pull any other items out? 12.1 CF3. Councillor Lagan?
Yes, I'd like to pull out 12.1 CF2, page 20.
Yes, are there any other? Councillor Dudek?
Yeah, I'd like to pull out 12.1 CF4. It's just a couple questions, so they may be able to be dealt with quickly.
Thank you. Any others, councillors? Councillor Ree?
And I am pulling out 12.1 CF3. Yes, just to check.
Yes, I already stated that would be pulled out. Thanks, Councillor Ree. Okay, councillors, we will move now to item 12.1 CF2. I will move to the chair of the Planning Committee, Councillor Proud.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'd like to move the committee recommendation as on page 20. Happy to speak to it if necessary.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this item? Councillor Giudice, seconding. Anyone opposed? Question. If it's just a question, I'll allow the question.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy Mayor. My question through you to officers is relating to comments made at committee. So at committee, officers made comment around the percentage of hosted and unhosted short stay accommodation that exists within the city today that are not fully approved by the city or are in the process of being approved. Can officers please give me some indication of what steps are now in play to ensure speedy approval of those not fully approved that will match the timeline that we will be having for this public advertising of the policy itself?
Ms Shears.
Through you, Madam Acting Deputy Mayor, in terms of, that's a mouthful. Acting Mayor. Through you, Madam, in terms of the number of applications that we haven't received applications for, we do get notified by DEMERS in terms of those that are reaching their 90-day, close to their 90-day limit. The city has got a process in play at the moment to notify those ones that may be close to that time frame. However, we don't have the resources to approach every single, operating short stay accommodation in the city at the moment to approach them for an application. Unfortunately, due to constraints in terms of resourcing, a lot of our initiation of application requirements is through complaints to the city.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Lagan?
I just have one further question relating to that, and thank you for the comment from the officers. Just further to that, and keeping in mind what was mentioned in that response, how is the city then going to apply the R codes with relation to parking, the minimum requirement for parking and then the requirement above 12 for unhosted, given that a number of community representatives have spoken to elected members about the increased amount of street parking around these businesses?
Ms Shears.
Through you, Madam Chair, in terms of the applications that may have 12 occupants or more, I mean, that would need to be at least a 6-bedroom house. That would be a very rare exception to the ones that we see coming through the door. Most are sort of 2 and 3 bedrooms. the R codes do apply in addition to the policy, which has 2 additional bays if they did have 12 occupants in the dwelling. If there was a situation where it was causing a problem, unfortunately, we do only get alerted to that through complaints from the community as well.
Nothing further. Councillor Ree?
Yes, please, just a question. Just to follow on from the parking issue, I do recall there was, and Mr Quirk may recall too, there was a house with 3-bedroom house, and then it was advertised as an Airbnb, and they had people in each of the 3 bedrooms, people in the carport at the front. They also hired out tents in the backyard for $28 a night. Now, ended up having 9 cars there. And at the time, because they were itinerants, people coming and going, which was very disturbing for the neighbourhood, it came back to it couldn't be a community safety parking issue because they weren't doing anything wrong apart from cluttering the street. But it comes back to a planning issue. This isn't addressed in this policy that's going out for advertising. How can that be addressed to protect the residents that are actually living there so that because it's a planning issue, not a parking issue. So can you tell me how that can be addressed in this policy, please?
Ms Shears?
Through you, Madam Chair, in terms of the number of people that are allowed to be accommodated in one of these premises, it's 2 per bedroom. So if it is a 3-bedroom place, then the maximum is 6 people that are allowed to be on the premises at any one time. It specifically states in the policy too that lounge areas, other sort of parts of the house aren't to be used as bedroom or accommodate anyone sleeping as well. So if we do get a complaint about something like that operating, we are empowered to then take compliance action against that use.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just still don't know what's happening with the parking. So what you're saying, if I'm correct, through you, is that if you have a 3-bedroom house, you can have 6 people and therefore you could have 6 cars. Maybe, maybe not. How are we addressing the parking issue?
Ms Shears?
Through you, Madam Chair, in terms of the R codes to apply for normal residential car parking, that still is the same. There is an additional requirement, I'm just trying to find it now, in terms of additional people in the dwelling. So if it's more than 3 bedrooms, if there are going to be additional people than that, there will be additional requirement for cars. So I think it's from section 4.5 of the policy, there's a requirement for additional vehicles to be provided. That's also part of what the officers will assess when they are looking at the DA.
Coming back to my original question, then if you have too many cars, which we all know, in an area, which they shouldn't be, and you've got a high rise and then parking in front, who is going to say they're wrong? It has to be the planning department that then has to then book, I'd imagine, the applicant, the owner of the property, for having more cars, not our parking people. Am I correct in that?
Ms Shears?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's something that we would work internally with our rangers on. So if a complaint came through that a use was operating unlawfully, our planning compliance team would then go out to investigate and see what the actual occurrence is happening on site. If it was just a one-night thing, it's difficult for us to take compliance action on that.
I still think that needs to be reviewed in a bigger scheme because there are cars that stay there a long time and it's not a parking. My second question is with regard to advertising. Where will this be advertised so that people get to see, not hopefully just on the internet, please?
Ms Shears?
Through you, Madam Chair, in terms of the advertising of this particular policy, it will be advertised through our normal channels, so it will be on social media, it will be on our city's website. We do also have particular community groups that we send these types of things out to regularly as well, and we will, for each development application that comes through under this policy, so if we do have a short-term rental accommodation application, the neighbours are notified that that application is with the city as well.
So through you, just coming back to that consultation, so this is the actual general policy. Is it possible to have that in a hard copy for people that obviously we're only doing it via the internet, we're only doing digital? Have we got anything to say we can go hard copy for some of these people?
Ms
For the policy itself?
Through you, Madam Chair, we can provide that if someone comes to the city and requests it. We do also have copies at the front counter if people come to the admin centre here.
And I think that's fair enough. I'm just going to make the comment that in this day and age, printing over 250,000 paper copies of a policy is unrealistic.
Totally agree. I wasn't intending for us to do, I was just intending for us to be in a newspaper. I mean, a hard copy as in a hard copy
Thank
newspaper.
you, Councillor Ree. And that concludes the questions. We have a mover. This has been moved, Councillor Councillor Giudice has indicated a question.
Thank you, Acting Deputy Mayor.
I'm
Sorry,
not
policy. I meant
acting.
yes. Sorry.
I really am.
Madam Acting Mayor, I should say. Two questions, and sorry, just on the same line of inquiry of Councillor Lagan and the Demers Register. There is, I suppose, some advice that we received that on the Demers Register at the moment, we've got a number of properties that have indicated they've got a valid development approval. Do we know, is that just, self-reporting by the parties that are registering, and so we don't really have an understanding of verification if they actually indeed have an approval?
Ms Shears.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct. They are self-reporting. Some of them may only limit themselves to 90 days as well, which they're entitled to do.
One more.
Sorry, is just relating to something I raised at committee last week, and just to check again that I suppose within this policy there would be the capacity for this policy to nominate, as opposed to the maximum of 12 persons being residing in this these unhosted short-term accommodation, that we could dictate a lower number, and therefore maybe, I suppose, because there's grave concern about the parking scenarios that can befall some of these larger premises. Would that be correct, that we can control the numbers into these premises?
Ms Shears.
Through the Chair, yes, certainly that's something we can look at. We do suggest in the policy that multis be limited anyway to a maximum of 6, and each approval as it's assessed will be conditioned for the appropriate management plan and also per the conditions of approval, which will say how many people can reside on the property as well. But we can certainly look at that.
Thank you. Councillors, any further questions on this item? No. We do have this moved by Councillor Proud, seconded by Councillor Giudice. Nobody is opposed. Councillors, I'll put this to the vote. And that is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Moving now to item 12.1 CF3, naming of new roads, Sarich Court to Cedric Street, Innaloo. I will move to Councillor Proud, Chair of P&D, to move a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to move the committee recommendation on page 36.
Seconded, Councillor Lagan. I will just move to Councillor Ree, who may wish to foreshadow her motion.
Yes, please. I'd like to foreshadow an alternative motion in that the road be called Tom Beattie's Road, because it's more depicting what goes on locally for local people, and I think it's more representative.
Don't need the reason. Thank you very much. Is anyone opposed? And then we can open it to debate should you choose to. Councillor Dudek, are you opposed? So just to be clear, we are still on the substantive motion. If the substantive motion does not get up, then we would move to the foreshadowed Councillor Ree's motion. But first we are speaking to the substantive motion. Is anyone opposed to the substantive motion per committee? You're opposed, Councillor Ree. I'll move to the mover then.
Thanks, Madam Chair. We had a lengthy debate at committee on Tuesday evening. Officers consulted with the Osborne Ward and the Doubleview Ward councillors a couple of weeks ago. I believe one of them responded. The officer made the recommendation, which was changed at committee. I just remind councillors that this is our only role in this item, is to put 3 choices in our order of preference. We do not get the final say. That is the geographic naming WA, names WA. They will make the final decision. They could send all 3 back and we could give them another 3, they could send all those back for whatever reason that they go through. It's a quite complex process that they go through to allow. They don't give us a whole list of names and say, these are what you can choose from. It doesn't work that. It's typical government. We send 3, they yes or no. They may take the third one and make it number 1. They can do whatever they want. Our only process, our only role in this is to give them 3 choices in our order of preference. That's it, period. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lagan.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I'm looking at page 43 of the report. It would be remiss of me to not support an Irish colleague. That's not my only reason for supporting it, but there was a very interesting story actually on, I think it was ABC, it might have been Australian Story on Daisy Bates that gave some real depth and length of the work that she did throughout Western Australia. A very influential person in our state, definitely worthy of recognition. It is also important that her recognition is aligned to First Nations people and the work that she did in a time where that was not common. And she was a writer, an author. She had a very colourful life. And I think the name is very suitable, also reflective of not only our history, but some of our colonial past, which is important as well.
Thank you, Councillor Lagan. Councillor Ree, you are opposed?
Yes, thank you. Whilst I do oppose particularly the Catpaw Road and the Regalia Road, because I don't believe that they are synonymous at all with the area, at all. And we want things that for people to know that they feel like that they're aligned to. They are not. The Daisy Bates is one of the names I suggested, but then looking at it and even commenting by the officers, she was eccentric. She did get a lot of people angry with various reasons, which if you look at the other side of it, is not necessarily appropriate. Might be better placed in an area. Yes, she's done significant things, but maybe not in this particular area of Innaloo. She did not live here. She did not do anything in this area at all. However, she did do things in other areas of the city, and so therefore it might be applicable somewhere else. I do believe that with regard to a naming of any road, and especially in the Doubleview ward where we don't have that many roads due to the density developments we have, that it's really important that we go for something, a name of people that are really afraid with the neighbourhood, that have been there. I have suggested Tom Beattie's in my foreshadowed motion, mainly because it's not only about what significant things they did to this area. They came here as migrants with nothing, no money, nothing.
Point
just
of order.
a skin.
We're not on the foreshadowed motion yet. We're still on the substantive.
Thank you, Councillor.
In order to substantiate the fors and pros of this one, I do need to make a comment about the Tom Beattie's family. They brought the skills of being a baker with very little money. They started a bakery. Their kids sat there and they came here into this area, delivered bread. And for those that can remember when bread was delivered to your house, you know, that was hard work, which they did in this area. They also played in the tip when they were kids, looking for rats, looking for all sorts of things, as kids do when you play around. For those who also remember playing in Hertha Road, tip, like I do, and cubbies and forts and everything else we used to do. These days you couldn't do that. But in those days we could. Just the rule was don't bring any blood home, that's all. I think it's important that we do recognise people that were there. The Tom Beatties have that. They went on to be great soccer players. They played soccer.
Sorry, Councillor Ree, I'm going to stop you there. You've mentioned the Tom Beattie's family once, and that's adequate. They are not involved in this substantive item, nor has any research been done. So you've covered that off. If you have any other reasons against this item, please state them in your debate.
Thank you. I think one of the most important reasons I would vote against this particular item, and bearing in mind that Daisy Bates is in as a second preference in my foreshadowed motion, is the fact that other people have involved here as children, were involved with sporting, and then have come back and played on that same tip that is now a sporting oval. You couldn't get any more closer to the area than this family. And whilst we should support other people, I don't think in any recommendation that anyone is as close to it as them. So Daisy Bates, I believe, is quite adequate to be on second preference, but not in particular in this area. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Reid. Councillor Dudek.
Thank you very much, Acting Mayor. And I think Councillor Reid is spot on here, and I'm very glad that there was this foreshadowed motion that was put up, because I really do think we should take some pride back in the naming of our streets and really try to make it more local. You know, one of the few ways we have to honour people, local people who've made an impact in the city of Stirling is by naming a street after them. And I think that we really should get back to our roots and try to honour them with the few streets that we have left. There won't be too many more developments in the city of Stirling the way it's built up. So the few chances we do have, I think we should honour local people, local families, and the Tom Beattie's family. I think while Daisy Bates is undeniably a very accomplished person, I wouldn't go remiss if Landgate chose to exercise that second preference in the potential foreshadowed motion. I think the impact of the Tom Beattie's family in the city of Stirling is very deserving of this honour. I hope we can begin to set a future precedent about naming local streets after local people, as we have done in the past, and I really think we do need to get back to it. So I'd urge my fellow colleagues to vote against this current motion and support the foreshadowed motion.
Thank you. Councillor Olo.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor.
Well done.
Yes, it was a mouthful. Now, Daisy Bates, we've got all the information on Daisy Bates, and what we're looking here at a name that's related to Innaloo. Where did the name Innaloo come from? From Daisy Bates. We are connecting the two streets, Sarridge and Cedric Street. So, to me, personally, if we're looking at Innaloo, I think we need to have a person that is relating to the name of Innaloo. And that's why I will be supporting Daisy Bates tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perkov.
Thank you, Madam Acting Mayor. I was very interested when this came through today to have a look at this. I was never welded on with any of the names during the committee meetings. I'm off committee. And no disrespect to Daisy Bates, the family, descendants and so on, but I'd like to keep it local as well. Now, a little bit of a ramble here. When my parents first came to Australia, they came to King Edward Road, right? That connects to Sarridge Court. This was all market gardens, all very local people, Southeast European people. I spent 14 years in Sarridge Court, plying my trade and so on. So all these things are very, very close to me. So when Councillor Reid suggested an alternate name that we can present to, is it Landgate or is it Naming WA, whoever it is, geographic names, thank you very much. Councillor Proud, I thought, excellent idea. I think all the councillors, the name Daisy Bates will stay there. We're just going to add another name, which is the Tom Beattie's family name, to this. It is local. They absolutely were in this area. I don't think there's anything wrong in supporting the foreshadowed motion. So both of these names go up. As Councillor Proud, my learned colleague, mentioned, we won't be the deciding factor. We won't. Someone else will. And I believe that they will have a good, long, strong look at this and please support the foreshadowed.
Thank you, Councillor Perkov. And with Council's indulgence, I would just like to make a statement on pertaining to this item in front of us. While it's nice to honour people with naming rights to building streets, etc., unfortunately, in some instances, it can be a double-edged sword when potentially character flaws are revealed down the line. I always err on the side of caution when considering naming of any public facilities after an individual. Thank you. And with that, I'll go to the vote. Oh, sorry, back to the mover to close debate. Nothing further, we'll go to the vote. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. That item is carried. And we have the system is slow. So for we have councillors Criado, Ferranti, Judici, Hutton, Lagan, Migdal, Olo, Papard, Proud and Thornton. And against we have councillors Dudek, Perkov and Ree. Thank you. Moving on to item 12.1 CF4, proposed amendments to local planning policy 6.6, landscaping. I will go to Councillor Proud, Chair of P&D, to move a motion.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Happy to move the committee recommendation, page 44. Let's just note that it's out for public comment.
Thank you. Is that seconded, Councillor Lagan?
Yes.
Yes. Is there anyone opposed to this item? A question? I will allow a question, Councillor Dudek.
It may be one or two questions, just depending. I noted in the committee meeting last week that there was basically the proposed amendments to LPP 6.6 of introducing water-sensitive urban design requirements for landscaped areas, and just a bit of a concern that the only way that that will be accomplished is by limiting the amount of grass that a development can put into their planning. I do also note on page 46 of the agenda, it does state that the 6.6 is generally applicable only to non-residential development. I'd just like some clarification from the officers on that and in what instances that it could be used for residential development.
Thank you. Ms Shears.
Through you, Madam Chair, Councillor Dudek, that's correct. There are parts of this that are applicable to non-resident development only. So Section 5, tree and landscaping requirements of the policy is for non-residential development only, whereas, say, Section 6 about tree retention applies to all developments.
So in terms of the water-sensitive design, that would only be for the non-residential development part of it?
Ms Shears.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, that's correct.
Cool. I might just ask a short follow-up question through the chair. When it does revert to the local planning scheme, the LPS 4, do you know if there's anything in there just that I can follow up on that does limit the, or does also have these, how's it described? Water-sensitive urban design requirements, as in limits on grassed areas.
Ms Shears.
Through you, Madam Chair, I can't say off the top of my head exactly how much. Certainly ensuring that developments can maintain the landscaping they have through using more water-sensitive design is a theme that we try and encourage. We often find that if it's cumbersome or heavy maintenance for developments to maintain, they just won't maintain them and it ends up dying off. So the intent is to have more resilient landscaping in there that can survive a little bit of neglect rather than having a high maintenance.
Awesome. I'm happy to follow up the rest offline. So that's all.
Thank you. Councillor Ree, is it just a question?
Yes, please. Can I have the definition of non-residential developments, because there's none in the policy?
Ms Shears.
Through you, Chair, in terms of the official definition, I don't have the actual wording, but it would be anything other than a residential use. So the R codes primarily covers residential. This would be anything. So commercial, warehouses, those sorts of things is what this policy is intended to apply for.
Could I have clarification of entry statements so that when we've got, I'll give you a classic example of Churchlands Estate, where we used to have a brick wall and trees going in. For whatever reason, trees disappeared. Been trying to get it back. That's not there. It's virtually the verge. So is that classified as a non-residential? Because it's just the entry statement before you get in there.
Ms Shears.
Through you, Chair, no, that would be part of the residential estate. So when that was assessed, that would be considered the residential part of it. So even though that particular component is landscaping and it's not a use per se, this is when we have a development for a warehouse and the landscaping component that might apply to that, as opposed to an apartment building or multis or group dwellings, the landscaping component that applies to that. That's sort of why we've just drawn that difference.
So something like the Arts Settlers Cottage in Pearson Street, that would be classified then?
Cheers.
Through you, Madam Chair, as non-residential.
Thank you. There being no further indication, councillors, I will put this item. That motion is carried with all for and Councillor Dudek against. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Proud, would you like to move the balance?
Happy to move the balance of the reports.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't press the mic. Can I get a seconder, please, to move the balance of reports? Councillor Papard seconded. Everyone, just a show of hands. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thanks, councillors. We'll move on now to item 13, reports for consideration in accordance with clause 4.2 in brackets 4 of the Meeting Procedures Local Law 2021 on page 67 of your agenda. Item 13.1, councillors, do I have a mover of a motion? Councillor Proud?
Happy to move the motion on page 67.
Thank you. Councillor Ree? Do you want to stand up?
Second.
Thank you. Is there anyone opposed? No? Councillors, I'll put that item. And that is unanimous. Thanks, councillors. Moving on to item 14, notices of motion for consideration, page 72 of your agenda. We'll move to item 14.1. Councillors, do I have a mover of motion? Councillor Ferrante.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor, Acting Mayor, Associate. That I'd like to move the alternative recommendation, please, as per the agenda, that a report be presented to Planning and Development Committee meeting to be held on the 6th of May 2025, outlining the height and length and cost options for netting to the tee abutting Raymond Street, Yokine, on the WA Golf Course. The report be based on the city's experience at Hammersley Public Golf Course and various sporting fields, and include high-level alternative options that could be pursued by the WA Golf Club. I so move.
Thank you so much, Councillor Ferrante. Well read. Councillor Perkov to second. Yes. Is anyone opposed to this item? No. I'll put that, councillors. There. And that's unanimous. Thanks, councillors. Moving now to item 15, notice of motion for consideration at the next council meeting. Councillors, do you have any proposed notices of motion that you'd like to raise? Councillor Ree?
Yes, please. That a report be presented to the Community and Resource Committee meeting to be held 20th of May 2025 with regard to the potential of the city working in partnership with aligned WA scrap metal dealers to collect unregistered car bodies and other scrap metals from residential areas within the City of Stirling at no cost to the residents on one designated week per year on an initial trial basis. And the reasons for the motion were...
No need to read the reasons. Thank you.
As read.
Thank you very much. Any other notices of motion, councillors? No, there being none, we'll move now to item 16, questions by members of which due notice has been given. I have nil. Item 17, new business of an urgent nature. I have nil. 18, matters behind closed doors. I have nil. And moving on now to item 19, closure of the meeting. I'd like to declare tonight's council meeting closed at 7:45 p.m. and say good night to everyone at home, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. And a little sneaky...